Well, hello, John Finley.
Well, hello, Jaymz Bee.
Nice to see you, my friend.
Nice to see you as I stare at the camera instead of you so that I don't look like I'm looking down.
Right. This is kind of like a radio interview. If we're going to tell people how sausages are made here. By looking at the camera, it feels like I'm looking at you. But of course, when I'm looking at you, I'll be down around there.
That's right.
Yeah. So a little of this and a little of that. I'll go back, make sure I know who I'm talking to. John
Behind the
Finley,
scenes,
you
folks.
have some cool stuff behind you on that wall in your office. Now, I know you've moved back to Canada from LA. You've recorded this amazing record, Soul Singer, with Lou Pomonti and some amazing musicians. What is that record behind you? It looks like a gold or a silver, whatever that record
It,
on your wall.
it is a gold record. It's one of my gold records. It's for Let Me Serenade You with Three Dog Night. And it was a hit single, and it was on the hit albums Cyan back in the day.
I was watching some of your stuff with Lou Pomonti talking about the making of the record, and one of the stories I really loved is like Ray Charles also loved that song, but Three Dog Night had such a big hit with it that most people didn't want to touch it for a while. They're like, "That's already a big hit. We're not going to do another version of that."
Yeah, well, they put an first time recording. Though the song was recorded previously, but we renamed it and recopyrighted it. Warner Brothers Music did, so that we could have an exclusive.
Yep.
And so it was a matter of who was going to give us the exclusive first. And Three Dog gave it to us first, so
Yep.
there they went.
Well, what a big hit that song was. And then you spent so much time in LA writing songs for years and years. Was it ever, did it ever feel like you were like trapped in a job, or were you always grateful for being creative?
No, I never felt trapped. It's anything musical has always been a joy to me. The business,
Right.
but the actual art, I'm a lucky guy to get to do this stuff.
And you're back in Canada now. What I love about this new record is you have songs that you've written many, many years ago and probably bought a house or two from it. But then you also have songs you wrote like a few months ago. The,
Yeah.
the song with Danny Weiss is so cool, Money Love. So
Hmm.
you're still writing songs like on a regular basis, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The muse, when the muse decides she's had enough of me, you know, then they can put me in my grave.
Well, let's go back to the beginning. You're in a band on Yonge Street, and a lot of people older than me have told me they knew the band.
Mhm.
The proof is in this documentary I've seen about how famous you guys were. John Lee and the Checkmates. Uh,
John and Lee and the Checkmates.
John and Lee and the
Yeah.
Checkmates. And so you and Lee were singing really good harmonies, and then this band, it really felt like, well, it doesn't look real to me. It looks surreal. When I see footage of you guys, the power and the craziness and the go-go dancers on Yonge Street, young people think they invented cool. But if I was back in those days, that looked really, really cool. What
it,
was it like with John and Lee and the Checkmates?
it was so much fun. And the fans, our followers, there was no, it wasn't, what would you say? Not, well, there was an innocence and a purity. They, I don't know what they felt inside. I know what they exuded. And it was really emotional.
It was
Uh,
screaming like the
you know,
Beatles, John. It actually, watching
yeah,
the audience, watching the riot at City Hall, it wasn't a mean riot. It was a friendly crowd that was pushing each other around out of excitement.
it was going nuts. Yeah, yeah. It was just going nuts.
Like
Yeah,
lost in the fervor, just everybody lost in the moment, girls screaming, everyone dancing like crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then something made you go, I'm going to go to the US and join a US
Okay, well,
group.
here's what happened. Paul Rothschild, who was at the point when I met him, he was producing Michael Bloomfield. What was that? The group they had, the Chicago Blues group, blues band. He was producing them for Elektra, and he was scouting around. And he came and saw us, came up to Toronto to see people. And I got to know him. He liked the group. They made us an offer. We didn't go for it. He never forgot us. I never forgot him. And then there came a time when he was putting together a group for Elektra. The concept was supergroup. And it was get the best people you could find from everywhere. And I think about a total of 50 or 60 people went through the tryouts.
Crazy.
I was in the second wave. And so that's how I ended up really become, the Checkmates had played in the US, and in Philly, New York, Ohio, but this was really, I was transplanting.
Right. This is an American group with some Canadian band members.
Exactly.
And a bunch of American band members.
Yeah.
So who else was in the original, who was in the original version of our Rhinoceros when you first started? I have the Rhinoceros vinyl, by the way.
Yeah, the first album is the original membership, and that is Alan Gerber, I would guess second lead vocalist, primary songwriter, and a little bit of keyboards. Mm-hmm. Billy Mundy on drums from the Mothers of Invention.
Right.
Jerry Penrod and Danny Weiss from Iron Butterfly, Danny on guitar and Jerry on bass. Doug Hastings from Seattle, from a group called Daily Flash, on guitar, second guitar, and Michael Fonfara from the Checkmates. And I got a little story about him. Anyway, he was not going to be in the group, but he was in Electric Flag. The Paul Butterfield Blues Band. That was the band from Chicago I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
So he was in Electric Flag, which was an outgrowth of some of the Butterfield people, Buddy Miles on drums. And something happened that I won't go into, but he ended up hanging out with us. And then, there was just a nice musical meeting, and so he ended up in the group.
When you say something you're not going to talk about, was it like crazy drugs? 60s, right?
He got busted, and their management said, you're trouble, and
right.
you're not a citizen of the U.S. Goodbye.
Right. Yeah.
But it was our good fortune.
Yes, because then Mike got in. I remember meeting Mike Fonfara. I've seen him recently, actually, but he was playing with a lot of groups after that too. You just kind of meet a ton of people and just keep working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was with Alice Cooper. He was with Lou Reed.
Yeah.
He was with David Clayton Thomas at one point.
Yeah. You guys still are friends? Like a lot of these people you probably don't see a lot, but when you do, it's probably feels pretty good, right?
Well, Danny and I, of course, we're in touch a lot.
Yeah.
And if not for COVID, we'd be seeing each other a lot. I visited up to his home. We've done writing together. We've done a lot of writing together in the last 5-10 years.
Let me ask you about Danny. Now, was he originally a U.S. citizen or was he Canadian?
Yes, he is. He was born in El Cajon.
I thought so because of Iron Butterfly. I figured he probably wasn't born here, but he's living in Canada.
Yeah.
I haven't been to his house, but I've seen it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for both of you. When I find guys that still play great music, they never ever stop, but they've had a few hits in the past, but you can still live so well living in Canada, being a bit in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta be, especially these days. I bet you're glad you're not in a condo.
I love it. I love it. I'm just enjoying myself so much here, and happy to be here. and it's a sweet and gentle country.
Yeah.
And there's support for the arts here, and there's a lot going on musically, and
For sure.
it's a lovely country.
So now you're in Iron Butterfly. You guys are getting world famous. You're playing festivals everywhere. What was the decision for you to go, okay, think I got to move on from this?
You're talking about Rhinoceros.
Oh, sorry, Rhinoceros. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the group, Paul Rothschild started the group. And so in a sense, he was the leader. And a lot of people in the group weren't enamored with his bedside manner. And so he ended up not producing the second album. And you take the leader away, and the stability in the group goes bloop.
Yep.
And so we started changing members. People started leaving. We started saying goodbye to people. And so by the time after the third album came out, things had really changed.
Right. It wasn't so much songs by the third album, right? It was more like really interesting, almost jam sessions. It was like longer pieces, but not as much song.
No,
or was it after that?
No, the third album was written a lot by the producer, as opposed to the band,
Mm-hmm.
and new people coming in. So the character had really changed, and there were only a couple of original members left in the band, 2 or 3. So anyway, as all things, all bands come to an end, except for the Rolling Stones. And they'll come to an end in the cemetery. So it was in the fall of 71. That was the end of the band. And I came back up here. I've spent about a year and a half here, 71, 72. But I wanted to go back to LA. And Paul and I were in touch. And so I went back in the fall of 72 and just stayed there.
Now, when you got back, when you got to LA, I love this story. I've heard it once before of you singing in the church. You kind of found your way back into gospel music, which you liked as a kid.
I always loved gospel, and to me, it was the core. And so I was doing something, part of a large investment that Stax Records made, doing a live album for Eric Mercury at the Houston Astrodome. And there was like a full string section, a full horn section, a 20-voice choir, a 5-piece rhythm section. And so I was in that choir, and I ended up in it because as a lot of Eric's friends ended up in it. And I had known Eric for many, many years. So in it was the director of the choir that I ended up working with, the Voices of Inspiration. His name was Alexander Hamilton. He directed the Southern California Community Choir, which was James Cleveland's choir, on the Amazing Grace Aretha Franklin album. And and he was really connected. We did studio work for Beach Boys and a lot of other people, Michael McDonald. Anyway.
My favorite. Yeah, I can't sing like him, but he's my favorite.
In that time, the choir was really getting around, and we started, and I just, when I joined the choir, this was mid-70s, I had kind of lost my passion. And getting back into the choir, it was like, I didn't know why I lost my passion. I thought maybe it was because I wasn't a kid anymore. And the glow goes away in life or something like that.
Yeah, but not with you, my friend.
And that wasn't the case, and we know that.
Yeah.
But so it was all came flooding back. All that feeling that I felt in the Checkmates, that
Yeah.
just, and so and it was a very interesting experience because here I am, this little white boy, and so what we would do in gospel a lot, there's an A and B selection when you're on a concert with other acts. So the A selection would be we do Hallelujah, and the handle Hallelujah.
Oh, yes, not the Leonard Cohen. That came later, right?
No, but we do it totally syncopated.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody else would be doing this straight ahead gospel thing. We'd do that, and it would blow people's minds. And then after that, the little white boy would walk out front, and so it was really some
I
amazing
can see you blowing
experiences.
minds when people. John, this happens to you right now. I have had people guess when they hear your voice. I
Mhm.
have heard every kind of guess, and they're all wrong. Nobody thinks that it's going to be you singing. I would say maybe 70-80% of the people, when I play your song, they would say, well,
Yeah.
that's obviously someone black. I'm going to guess around 35.
Oh,
I'm like, no. One person
that's
thought you were a woman. One person thought you were a kid. Like, it was amazing. And because your voice somehow
nice.
has such natural gospel, like it's in you, but also your voice, I forget this because I'm a fan of yours, but if you just only listen to it, how do you keep control of your voice and keep care of your voice? Because I can tell people you're 75, and how do you keep your voice in shape like this?
I lost my voice in the mid-90s, and I went to an ENT specialist. That's ear, nose, and throat.
Mm-hmm.
And he scoped and saw that my cords were all stretched and they wouldn't work properly. He was going to do laser on me, but instead he said, let me send you to, she's the only speech pathologist in LA that deals strictly with professional singers. And she, over the course of 3 months,
A
got
speech
my voice.
pathologist.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting person to send you to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't that I,
The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plane? Not that,
yes,
beyond that.
kind of, but she had me do these exercises and I was doing them like 20 minutes, 6 times, 7, 8 times a day. And gradually over 3 months, by the end of 3 months, she said, okay, you can sing now. And from there on, my voice I got all my range back that I had when I was 20 years old. And her name was Bobby Banks Salkowitz, and she was a miracle.
Well, yeah, because you have been singing, and the thing is, I mean, even just one song, you have such a range. Doing an entire night or making an entire album, man, it's just amazing. Oh, by the way, right now, I love the lighting. You have some God rays coming in through your window.
I just saw that.
As we're talking about gospel. So then you're writing songs, you're doing gospel, you're living in LA.
Yeah.
You come up to Toronto for kind of a reunion, a bit of a benefit concert. And then I think you meet a woman who convinces you to change your life a bit, right?
Well, yes. Checkmates, a little reunion. We're doing an A and B selection. And it was Let Me Serenade You and the Eddie Floyd Raise Your Hand. And I just did church on that audience, just gave them what I had to give. And she was in the audience and she said she saw blue light all around me. And she came to introduce herself to me afterwards. Or a bunch of people I was talking with. And when we shook hands, I heard this voice say, literally inside me, I heard this voice say, do not let go. This is your life. And 3 days later, we were together, and that was it.
Wow, amazing.
So she
And
got me coming up to Toronto more. I started spending almost half my time up here, and and finally it became, well, okay, where am I going to live here? Because I'm either doing a half-assed job in Toronto or doing a half-assed job in LA. Well, this woman is not going to leave because at that point she still had kids that were in their teens. So I was, hey, who's going to hold me in the night if I have a bad dream? The city of LA or this beautiful woman? I made the right choice.
you sure did.
And it led to all kinds of other miracles. When we met,
Right.
when I was sitting in with Lou and at the old mill. And
I was on a jazz safari. I had 24 people with me. We walked into the old mill bar, and I thought it was going to be Lou and a trio, which is plenty soulful jazz already. But then I saw you standing there singing in an amazing suit and really fine shoes. And I just walked in, and you know what happens is I go out so often for so many years. When I see someone I don't know, I just, like, I almost want to run home and eat humble pie because I keep thinking I know the scene, but I keep being blown away by people I don't know yet. So anyone who says I know everybody, it's just a big fat liar. Like, no one does. So I walked in, and you were singing "Save Your Love for Me."
Your Love for Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful Buddy Johnson tune that Nancy Wilson did with Cannonball Adderley. And I've always loved that tune. And it lifts me always.
I just remember going up to you. We were on our way out. It was after the set, and I walked up and I introduced myself to you and really said, please tell me you live in Toronto. I have some shows in mind for you, like right away.
Yeah, and you know what? It wasn't long before that I had made that decision to make the move and come up. And I got to say, James, too. I mean, you looked at my shoes, I looked at yours. Right away, I knew. Hey,
right.
This is a kindred spirit here.
Mine were like, I think they were like paisley leather or crocodile fake shoes from New Orleans. And we both basically looked a little bit like pimps, but kind of comical pimps.
As they say, all pimped out.
So yeah, that was a really great time. And also, not coincidentally, you're at one of my parties when Lorenzo from Vesuvius Music sees you. And punches me on the shoulder. Well, taps me on the shoulder. He's strong, so that felt like a punch. But he taps me on the shoulder. He goes, "That guy needs to be recorded. How many records does he have? Where's his records? I need to know more about this guy." And that's right away. After one song, he said, "I'm going to make a record with that guy." And then your decision immediately was to go back to Lou Piemonte, who was a friend of yours, and how we met. And so everything kind of came full circle. Lorenzo's my buddy, Lou's your buddy. We all hang out together and go, let's go. Yeah.
You couldn't write a book better than that.
Yeah, and it felt like really fast. Like, it wasn't fast. It took over a year to make the record. But the enthusiasm, right?
Yeah.
Another fan of yours, Wayne Anica, same thing. He saw you and that guy needs a record. He jumped on immediately. So there's something really exciting about, because the music industry is so weird, there's something really great about just having actual fan base and actually having people jump in and want to get involved in something. Right? It's a much different family and a much different business than when you got those gold records behind you.
Yeah. That's the biz.
Yeah.
And this is family biz. It's so personal.
Right. Everybody is excited when something goes well, like your videos. If you have, folks, I'm going to talk to the audience now. Hello. If people haven't seen your YouTube channel, the John Finley YouTube channel, those songs at Canterbury Sound, unbelievable live band, and you're playing with musicians on that aren't on your album. A couple of them are, Danny Weiss and Lou pop by, but you're playing with some people that you really didn't know. It was remarkable. What was it like recording with Rich Brown, Isaiah Gibbons, Alexander Brown,
Oh,
Joel Byzantine? Like that was
it was so much fun. So much fun. You know, watching these songs come to life in a real setting, you know, in a live setting. It's so different than studio.
and it's
It's
seat of
not,
the pants too, right?
it's
It's
not,
really
huh?
there's a danger almost that you're at
Oh,
seat of the
yeah,
pants. You've
of
got the
course.
parts and you just let her rip.
Well, that's the excitement of doing live, you know, and the studio, not to take anything away from the studio, because the experiences I had with Lou in the studio were so real.
Hmm.
It was, you know, there was no, I'm in the studio. Um,
Right, right.
but,
There was no
but the
taxi meter
live
going.
thing, there's
You
no
weren't
going back.
you were working at your own rate and you weren't thinking about the business. You were only thinking about the song.
Right. There's no clock. There's no, we got to get this, you know,
Yeah.
hey, if it don't happen today, it happens another day.
That
That
is
was
a
my attitude.
luxury. Two things: you had a really decent budget, and you got Lou
Yeah.
Pomonti, who will give
Yeah.
his all once he signs on to something. You
Yeah.
know, whether it's Michael Bublé or Sharon Jones, once he gets into something, he's full on. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Lou gives it all.
You know, the footage again on your YouTube channel of you and Lou talking about the record,
Yeah.
it's like a master class. Not everybody needs to know everything, but anybody who hears that record and goes, I wonder why he picked that song, or I wonder what he was thinking when he wrote that, or what is that sound, or why did they modulate? There's so many questions that would go through a musician's head listening to this, that I think it's fantastic that you guys sat down and just explained the process of making that record.
Yeah. It's like TED Talks music,
Right,
you
exactly.
know?
Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
what do you have? What wishes do you have for people for the new year? I mean, this has been maybe a little easier on you being in the country, not being in a city. Because I tell you, people that live in apartments and are afraid to use their own elevator,
Oh,
it's pretty sad.
oh
Uh,
man.
but what are your wishes for the new year? What do you see as potentially happening in 2021?
For you, for me, for the world,
Let's say
there's,
for you, for starters.
for me, well, I hope that by the summer, um, enough people are inoculated and it's working, that we can be out doing things, and that, you know, I get the opportunity to connect with audiences,
Right.
with humanity,
Yeah.
and with the art, with the
That's a
music.
beautiful thought, because that's not just for you,
Mhm.
that's for absolutely everyone. That's for
Oh
me, that's
yeah.
for everyone. I remember seeing you at Markham Jazz Festival. I think it's the first time I ever saw you at a festival with a larger audience, like bigger than a nightclub, and people were crying. You were doing a blues song, and you'd look around, and everybody was so affected. The only person not crying, I saw he had goosebumps, was Lorenzo, and it's because he was looking around going, I backed the right horse. This guy's amazing. But that audience,
uh,
I mean, even the
uh,
volunteers at Markham said this is one of the best shows we've ever had here. Why, you know,
oh man.
it was fantastic. So I agree with you. I hope you're able to get out there. Nowadays, with not so many people either believing or wanting to go to church or whatever all that means, the sense of community at your concerts and the gospel churchy in you, it comes out. And it doesn't matter what people believe in, what they think. It's the music will just wash over a big crowd of people.
Yeah,
It's
that's
something else.
music is such a gift to humanity, you know. We are so fortunate to have that. It's like, if I was still a Catholic, I grew up Catholic, I call it a sacrament.
Right,
You know?
right.
It's you know, there's this tabernacle. It's our hearts,
Yeah, right,
and
right.
we it lives inside us, this joy. And those of us who are gifted and charged with music. We are charged with the task of we got a little key called music. We can open that door to that tabernacle,
Yep.
and in and out comes the joy
Yeah.
in everyone's hearts.
Yeah. And if you sing in French, you can say tabernacle.
Tabernacle.
It's a North Bay thing from my childhood. You know, my dad's a born-again atheist, and my mom believed in unicorns and leprechauns. So I'm somewhere in the middle. But the churchy vibe, when the joy you're talking about, when you see a whole crowd open up like that, it's what we need today. So I'm with you. I hope 2021 we can get back on stage in people's faces and actually congregate again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love you, man. Thank you for your time.
I love you too, James.
And I really love how the God rays are coming in and washing over you right now. It's pretty psychedelic. We did not plan this.
Love you, brother.
Good luck, and I hope you make another record in 2021.
Yes, sir. All right now.
See you.
All right.
Bye-bye.